Alright, so you guys are starting a new unit today? I guess I don't know exactly what I'll call them, but so right now you guys are working towards a new SOL unit, and it's focused on global trade and commercialism. And through that lens, we're going to be looking at the Ottoman Empire today, the Empire of Mughal India, and China and Japan, and then also kind of changing economic systems. So just kind of copy this down. While you copy this down, I'll get used to this technology over here. So the other thing that's significant is kind of where we are, like time period wise. So in relation to what you've been learning about, I think before y'all were doing a little bit on the Renaissance and Reformation. So we were kind of around the 1500s, right? Height of the Renaissance and Reformation was kind of in the 16th century. So while that was all going on in Renaissance, like the European Renaissance and Reformation, you know, the rest of the world was still evolving, and there was stuff going on globally, and a lot of the rest of the world was also going through significant advancements during that time. So that's one of the things we're going to look at today. So we're starting with the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire, we're going to look through a lot of its expansion today, but it started in, do you remember from, this is world history too, so world history, your first year of it, the ancient empires and everything. If you remember Asia Minor, that's where we're going to be starting with the Ottoman Empire today. And Asia Minor is kind of, geographically, it would be where Turkey is today, among other places. So I don't really have to probably write anything else down except for maybe the original location of the Ottoman Empire is in Asia Minor, which at this time was actually called Anatolia, or yeah, Anatolia, but just go with Asia Minor, seems like what it'll be on the test. Okay, and so the development and the expansion of the Ottoman Empire starts with the conquest of Constantinople. And so during this time, I think that was under Mehmed II, is the Sultan in the Ottoman Empire that conquered Constantinople, which was in 1453. And so, do y'all remember Constantinople? I'm guessing that might have been this semester. Have you guys done the Byzantine Empire this semester? Was that? No. All right. So last year, do you remember the Byzantine Empire? Okay, right. So when the fall of Rome happened, it fell in the west, but the empire continued in the east as the Byzantine Empire. And so that finally fell in 1453 with the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Turks' conquest of Constantinople. Renamed it Istanbul. Just make sure, as I'm talking, just write down these notes for y'all, yourselves. And so Istanbul is the capital of the Ottoman Empire. And one of the things that the Ottoman Empire was known for most of its time was Islam was the main religion. So it was an Islamic empire, but it wasn't one with like strict Sharia law or anything where there's a lot of religious tolerance for other religions throughout most of the empire. And so that's why it says here Islam was, as a religion, was a unifying force that accepted other religions. So, so actually throughout most of Islam's kind of territories and civilizations, they were usually actually characterized by a lot of religious tolerance and a lot of acceptance of multiple religions in the region. And then also, as it says down here, we're going to look at it in a second, that in terms of trade, because one of the lenses of this unit is looking at what was going on at this time in the world through the lens of global trade and commercialism. So they were known for trade specifically in coffee and ceramics. So next we're going to look at a few maps of the Ottoman Empire. And so specifically we're going to be looking at how, and this is something you guys probably really want to write down, is the areas of expansion and the extent of the Ottoman Empire. And so we have Southwest Asia, Southeastern Europe and the Balkan Peninsula, and North Africa. There's two maps here that are pretty similar, but we'll just quickly look at both of these. So there was different sultans during the Ottoman Empire. There was like Mehmed II, who was integral in conquering Constantinople in the start of the Ottoman Empire. And then what's considered the height of the Ottoman Empire is 1520 to 1566. So this is right afterwards at 1580, and it shows the Ottoman Empire under Suleiman the Magnificent. And so he's a big guy in the Ottoman Empire. And so this is the Ottoman Empire right after his reign. And then there's another map. It's basically the same thing. It's the Ottoman Empire in 1580. And this arrow right here is to Constantinople. So you can kind of see where they originally started. Right, this is Anatolia here, which is Asia Minor. This is where the Ottoman Empire started. And then there was the conquest of Constantinople, which at that time had been part of the Byzantine Empire that finally fell. And then probably the best map on here in terms of seeing the expansion. This shows the different stages of the expansion in the Ottoman Empire. So you start Ottoman lands in 1359 is this orange right here. And then you have leading up to the conquest of Constantinople, so till 1451 is the stuff in blue. So they had conquered the second most important Byzantine city several decades, almost I think 100 years before the fall of Constantinople. That was the hardest thing. People had been trying for years to conquer Constantinople, and so they had conquered Adrianopolis, I think it is, which is one of the parts in the blue. So they were starting to get into the Byzantine Empire here. And then 1451 to 1520 is all this stuff in pink here. So that's what you see during the conquest of Constantinople and the initial expansion. And then 1520 to 1566, the stuff in purple is all under Suleiman the Magnificent. So, and that kind of, that's the most of that. Okay, so that's most of all of that on the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire kept going until about 1923. When Turkey became an independent republic, but what we were kind of going over was the height of the Ottoman Empire, the height and the expansion of it. So do people have questions about the Ottoman Empire or anything we went over so far? Cool, well, so y'all are already starting to write, so this is what we're going to be moving on to next. We're moving from the Ottoman Empire, which is right next to Europe, to the Mughal Empire, which is, as it says up here, the descendants of the Mongols, the Muslim Mughal or Mughal rulers, established an empire in northern India. So, in terms of location, geographically, we're moving over to northern India.
Stay 18 and they've already gone into automatic mode.
So as it says down here, the Mughal Empire traded with European nations. Now again, the unit lens is seeing this kind of all through global trade also, and that's going to be significant because when we look at China and Japan, you might take that statement for granted, but trading with European nations, not everyone necessarily chose to trade with other nations, right? So, now I'm going to bring us over to a map of the Mughal Empire, and so we have Babur and Akbar. Babur was the first ruler of the Mughal Empire, and so he helped start the northern Mughal Empire in northern India here. And then his grandson brought covered the first part, the Mughal Empire, up to 1605, and so that's what the empire looked like at this time. And then in the last part here is the expansion up till 1707. So this is 1605, 1707. So I don't think you necessarily have to write anything down with that, but just to kind of place the empire visually.
Those dates, it's just a matter of knowing that it did expand.
Yeah. Okay. So, in terms of significance, so we know the location of the empire, and then also here's the contributions. So the contributions of the Mughal rulers, start writing this down, I'll just read it out loud also, is the spread of Islam into India. Now for a good portion of the Mughal Empire, it was still characterized by a degree of tolerance like a lot of Muslim empires were, but towards the end there was Aurangzeb was a Mughal ruler who at the end kind of had, part of the spread of Islam in that time was that he instituted a more strict, like we're used to hearing about like Sharia law, strict Islamic law in the nation towards the end. So a good portion of it was the spread of Islam, characterized still by religious tolerance, but towards the end that also got reversed, and there was conflict that arose from that. So there is the spread of Islam into India, so that's significant, because before, there was Hinduism and Buddhism there, but predominantly Hinduism in India, and this is part of the spread of Islam into India. Art and architecture, the Taj Mahal, which I'll bring it back. I'll just bring over a picture in a second so you guys can keep writing. And so this period was characterized by a lot of like a flourishing of art and architecture, just like how the Renaissance in Europe was characterized by that. And it was a lot of blended like Persian, Hindu, Muslim architecture and art. And the Taj Mahal's one of the great projects that was constructed during the time. The arrival of European trading posts, and the influence of Indian textiles on the British textile industry. So this is also a time of a lot of like industrial and commercial prosperity and growth. So again, this is alongside what's going on in Europe. There's also still a lot of growth in other parts of the world, and so they particularly had a lot of growth in the cotton textiles, and so there was a lot of trade going on. So here's a picture of the Taj Mahal. And the Taj Mahal, just like when you look at the pyramids or any other great structures that are built, are usually built, either with peasant labor. In this case, there was a lot of overtaxation of the peasantry, which, creates a big burden when you're overtaxing the poor of your land. So